Are you ready to be wrapped in the sweet aroma of peaches in a warm, nutty cobbler? My fresh and vibrant peach cobbler is made gluten-free and nutrient-dense with almond flour, oats, almond butter, and of course, fresh peaches. And it's naturally sweetened with maple syrup. And I've added a super simple caramel sauce made with almond butter that takes this to another level. It has all the earthy and homey flavor of the original, but with clean ingredients that will leave you feeling great even after you've enjoyed dessert. And there's not a speck of white flour or processed white sugar in sight. We'll begin by slicing 6 peaches. And I have the variety that don't split in half real easily. So I have a hack for seeding these types of peaches. What you do is hold it up like the earth, and instead of cutting down the peach on the seam, you're gonna cut around the equator. So I'm just gonna take my knife and make a slice all the way around the peach. And then I'll simply hold on to the northern and southern hemispheres and then give it a twist, and then it pops right off. And then with our pit, you can just kind of wiggle it back and forth and twist it right out. And then we'll slice our peach in half and then into 6 thin slices. And then we're gonna take our baking dish, and I'm using the size that is just smaller than a 9 by 13. We'll want to spray it really well with some non-stick. I'm just using some coconut oil. And then we can just dump our 6 sliced peaches inside. Oh, those look so beautiful. And then to make a really simple sauce that we're gonna pour over the peaches, we're gonna go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of maple syrup as our natural sweetener, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 3 tablespoons of tapioca flour, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And then we'll go ahead and just stir these together. This is a perfect job for my cute little mini whisk. And then go ahead and just pour the sauce over the peaches. That smells delicious with the cinnamon. And then we can set this aside. And then to make our cobbler batter, we're gonna start with 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of milk. And I'm using almond milk. And then we'll just whisk these together until combined. Next, we'll add our dry ingredients, which includes 2/3 of a cup of oat flour. And you could start with either old-fashioned or quick oats and just blend them really quickly in a blender, and you'll get instant flour. 2/3 a cup of almond flour, 1/3 of a cup of tapioca flour. And then I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll whisk these together until combined. And now we can just take scoops of our batter. We're going to spread it out on top of our peaches. And I find it works really well just using a spatula and another spoon to be able to scrape it off. And I love spreading it in between the peaches and then having a lot of those peaches exposed just to give it that really beautiful rustic look. And after you spread out all the batter, I like to go back in and just make sure I have some really beautiful peaches poking up throughout the cobbler. They're so pretty, I don't want to cover them all up. Well, this is ready to go into a 350-degree oven for about 35 to 38 minutes, or until the top starts to lightly brown. While our cobbler is in the oven, we can go ahead and make our whipped topping. Now, I found it super quick and convenient to just use my immersion blender and the beaker that comes with it. So I'm gonna start with 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. Or you can look on the side of the beaker and just add 12 ounces. And to add a little bit of flavor to this whipped cream, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and about 2 dashes of salt. And we'll go ahead and just blend this on high until it forms the stiff peaks. Woo, we just barely contained all that whipped cream. That is so #satisfying seeing whipped cream come together. Now for a little pinky test. I love just the subtle sweetness to it with just a tiny bit of salt. That is delicious. And then we'll go ahead and store this in the fridge until our cobbler is done. And then to make this really simple almond butter caramel sauce, we're gonna start with 1/4 of a cup of almond butter. And then we'll add 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then several pinches of salt. Probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then go ahead and just take a fork and you'll mix those together. And what I really love about this sauce is that it doesn't require any heating or melting or caramelizing. And then you get this yummy caramel-like consistency without having to cook anything over the stove. And it just has really rich flavor and is super yummy. Well, the cobbler just came out of the oven and I wish you could smell my kitchen right now. The peach aroma is amazing. I ended up baking this for 38 minutes and you can see that it's just starting to get a light brown on the top, which is perfect. I love the rustic look of the peaches kind of coming through the cobbler batter. All those fresh peaches with a little bit of syrup underneath. We'll go ahead and add a little drizzle of our caramel sauce. And of course, we can't forget our whipped cream. We'll definitely throw on a scoop of that. I love it when the cobbler is nice and warm and then your cream starts to melt. Make sure it's not too hot. Wow, that is so delicious. The flavor just keeps getting better and better. I instantly get the flavor of those fresh, vibrant peaches, but then with a little bit of cinnamon and maple syrup wrapped around them to have the perfect amount of sweetness. And then I get those earthy flavors in the cakey part that has the oat and the almond in it. And then I get a little extra sweet and savory from that almond caramel drizzled on top. And then it's finished off with just that cool cream of the whipped cream, contrasting the warm cobbler. That is a delicious peach cobbler bite, and it leaves the best subtle and kind of sweet aftertaste. And you get so much depth of flavor that you don't get in a traditional cobbler that's just overpowered with processed white sugar and white flour. Well, that is definitely emotionally satisfying because you're eating this delicious classic peach cobbler, but then it's also physically satisfying because it's nutrient dense, it's gluten-free, and you're gonna feel really good after eating it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen to make this delicious peach cobbler. And I've included a link to the full recipe card and it's in the video description below. And it's also on my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who you think would love to have a gluten-free and naturally sweetened peach cobbler, please share this video with them. And I cannot wait to have you again with me in my kitchen next time.